Hello and welcome back. Hello and welcome back to Astro Self Care Sunday. It's I, Kenya. And today we are bringing the last houses of our series on astrology houses 10 through 12. And I'm titling this Reputation, Community, and Hidden Self. Ooh. So there's way more involved in this, but y'all know there's an algorithm and we trying to get people, what's that? What's that? I'm going to put it in context in a moment. If you are new, welcome. And y'all, we're just 15. The last time I checked, just 15 subscribers away from 1,000. And in YouTube land, 1,000 is very critical, very critical. So you need to, if you are not a subscriber, I need you to click subscribe, click the bell notification. So as soon as I drop this video, you get a nice little reminder. Click like, share, because that will get us moving and get us really close to that 1,000 mark. And that's when things begin to shift. The work still remains. But at any rate, welcome. If you have been coming here and you're enjoying this and you're learning, and those of you who've been commenting, I appreciate that. Those of you who've been sending me emails and messages and so forth, I appreciate that. If there's a certain topic that you're like, ooh, we did the houses, but now I want to learn more about, the planet Jupiter or whatever, put it in the comments or go to the description and email me. Let me know what topic or what series or what more we should do. I have my ideas and I'll just keep moving forth in them, but I would love to actually consider yours and include them. Okay. And obviously, if you have questions, email, all that's in the description. And more than anything, if you want to get your own personal birth chart reading and guidance and coaching about it, then definitely, book either an actual session or a free discovery call if you want to learn just a little bit more of what it's going to be about. If you already you feel like you know enough and you're ready to go ahead and book a session, then I'm happy to do that. And just look, like I said, in the description and you can do that. So the last of this series, the 10th house, the 11th house, and the 12th house. If you're like, what is house? I just got here. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just starting astrology. Huh? It's all right. We got you. We got you. Here on one of my playlists is Astro Self-Care Sunday playlist. And I have a lot of videos. And for the last 3 weeks, I've been doing this series, but right about a month ago is when I introduced it and I talked about what houses are and what they mean. So that way you can better understand it if in fact you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So go check that out. If you are like, I don't understand all the zodiac signs, and you're going to hear bells and whistles behind me, y'all, don't worry about it. That's just people in my house. But if you're wanting to still learn, like, well, because I'm going to be mentioning some zodiac signs and some planets, because every house is ruled by a planet and a sign. So I'll be talking about that. And if you're like, I don't know what Capricorn is, or I don't know, I'm going to describe whatever signs are associated with the 10th through 12th house today. But the other signs and so forth, make sure that's all in the playlist. Okay. All right, let's get started. I try to keep these at 30 minutes. 10th house. I put reputation. You will find probably when you're just looking in general that 10th house will be called the career house. Okay. Career and public. And it is ruled by Capricorn and it's ruled by Saturn. So absolutely, it's all definitely centered around how do people see us? What are we known for? Okay. Your MC, you may see your MC if you pull out your chart. And those of you who have been pulling out your chart while we do this, awesome, pull them out. If you're like, there are many places you can get your birth chart. It can be very confusing, though, when you first look at it. But anyway, I do like Chani Nicholas's birth chart. I think hers is nice and clean. She's at chart.channingnicholas.com. I'm not getting endorsements and stuff, but that's where you can find it. There's also the astro.com. There's time passages. There's a lot of spaces. But at any rate, the 10th house, because so the midheaven, that MC, you may see that that a lot of times will fall in the 10th house, or it will fall in the 11th house or the 9th house, because those are our more public, outwardly spaces. If your MC falls, like my MC falls in the 9th house. So I'm midheaven. MC means kind of what I just said, what you're known for, like really known for. Mine falls more in the 9th house. But many fall here in the 10th house because of it being public, and it also being about then your reputation and very much career. When I am looking at a person's chart and we're talking about career transitions, or we're talking about career challenges, or we're talking about, just in general, like what direction am I going to be going, career development, definitely 10th house is one of the primary areas to look at, as well as where is that MC, because the MC doesn't always equal per se. It's most aligned with career, most aligned. 10th house is career, but it's also just your reputation in general. Okay. So, and how, you're kind of seen and how you negotiate and navigate career, because again, the sign is talking about how, like the personality of how you do things. The planets are the who. Okay. So Capricorn, Saturn rules it. Saturn rules Capricorn as well. All that's associated with 10th house. So if you think again about 10th house, or think about Capricorn, think about Saturn, y'all know Saturn don't play. But what really Saturn is attempting to teach us is alignment and authenticity, and us getting in alignment and being disciplined within that, and creating goals and setting rules and procedures and so forth. And so I would say whatever is going on in your 10th house, don't just think about career, but also think about how you experience the public, how the public may see you, experience you. How has your reputation been? Okay. So I have an interesting 10th house. There's a lot going on currently in the chart that's impacting my 10th house. So my 10th house is Aries, and that's where my Chiron is. And if you remember, Chiron is the wounded healer. And so Chiron is where we get those wounds from our childhood that we're working through really the whole lifetime to heal and then pay it forward. I'm in my Chiron return. And so there's a lot of healing as well as paying that healing forward. And Aries is the I am, it's the identity. And so interesting having kind of, I feel like having Aries in the 10th house and having Chiron there, that's very personal, right? Because remember, Aries is the I am. And then I have this kind of wounded there. And then it's all there for the public. It's all there for the public. But what's really, and even reputation wise, people with Chiron and in that 10th house, it's not that you have a bad reputation. I don't want to make it seem like that, because again, astrology is not looking at good and bad, but there's some woundedness there. Now, when I reflect on my life and so forth, I mean, there's a myriad of things that kind of come to mind that I'm not going to go into depth per se, but I will say what I'm doing right now in the public, which is doing healing work for the public. And most of what I do with my healing work with others is helping them with empowering themselves and shifting their mindset around feeling stronger within their identity. The reason why I even do astrology, honestly, the reason why I love it, the reason why I use it as a part of my coaching, as a part of what I do professionally, is because it helps people better understand themselves and accept themselves and heal. So it's very interesting. As you see, astrology, chart don't lie. Very much, I totally resonate with what I have there. That's the only placement I have in my 10th house. So remember, look at the planets. I think if you have those more aggressive or challenging, your Saturns, your Plutos, your Chirons, in that 10th house. Although Saturn likes to sit in that 10th house, because if you're in the high frequency, if you have Saturn in your 10th house, again, that's home, it's ruled by that. But this is the thing, everything in astrology, and I hope you're really getting this, has a high frequency and a low frequency. So depending on how much you are nurturing yourself, learning about yourself, developing yourself, unlearning certain things, forgiveness, healing, therapy, all the things, the more you're going to resonate in that higher frequency. And I'm not saying all the things in intense ways. It's really just, if you can just bring yourself to some awareness around the truth of who you are, and what Saturn is saying, just we need you to give us that awareness. If you can give us that awareness and be willing to take a small step, we will meet with you and we will make this thing roll. Saturn is not playing around, but Saturn is not playing around. So 10th house, that public, it's not playing around, right? So it's not so much about, oh, I need to do everything right and be in perfect alignment, but it is, I need to be aware of those things that I need to shift. I need to be honest, and I need to create discipline and set goals and set strategy about how I'm going to do that. Okay. So that's 10th house. 11th house. 11th house is ruled by Aquarius. And it's also, because Aquarius, remember, it has two co-rulers. So it's also ruled by Uranus and Saturn. Okay. So Saturn is kind of playing its role kind of in both of these. And so the 11th house, though, because of that Aquarian feel, it's in Aquarius is very much, it's that air sign. It's very much about communicating with humanity and bringing awareness and community to things. Okay. So that's why I put community. So this is our friendships. This is our social media nowadays, because so many communities reside there. These are our groups. This is literal community. Like I said, friendships. So this is an area of your chart you want to look at. How are you basically in collaboration? That 7th house we did when we were talking about intimate partnerships and, those committed partnerships, those are our more vulnerable, committed spaces of relationships. And the 11th house is more of our public, like I said, communal, humanity kind of energy. And so you want to look at then, what sign is that for you? What sign is sitting in the 11th house for you? For me, my 11th house is Taurus. And so what you're going to do again is think about whatever that sign is. Okay, what are the characteristics of that sign? Because that's how you go about building community. That's how you go about maintaining friendships. That's how you go about navigating groups and even social media and so forth. So I don't have any planets there, but I do have Taurus there. And so again, when you don't have planets, you look at, okay, well, one, let's see here. I have Taurus. So what rules Taurus? I'm going to find where my Venus is. My Venus is in the 4th house of family. So there's some influence over in that area as well with my 11th house. And then you want to look at the planets again that you have. If you naturally have planets, if you have those lighter planets, if you have Uranus there, or if you have Saturn there, again, that means it's sitting in a house that it governs. So it tends to do well. Does that equal, oh, everything is honky-dory there? No. Remember, everything is ebb and flow. Astrology is showing us how we have contrast, how we have lessons, and so forth. It's just that if that house is has more beneficent planets or doesn't have as much activity, that just may not be the area of your life where you're getting such great, contrast and lots of energy and big lessons. But if you've got a lot of planets there, or if you've got your Plutos, you've got your Saturns, you've got your Chirons, you've got your Uranus likes to be there too. It's going to be a more activated part of your life. Okay. And if it doesn't feel like it's activated, then allow yourself to start thinking more about that. If your north node, for instance, is sitting there, a lot of times wherever our north node is, we'll feel like we're not really connected to that because the north node is the soul's journey. And we're going to talk way more about north node, south node. That's one of the things I want to talk about, but I need to want to hear from y'all too, because the north node, in my opinion, is so much of kind of what the whole chart is even about. It's kind of where the soul is taking all these experiences throughout the houses to develop you, to push you, to grow you, to move toward that north node. Um, I call it like the North Star, right? So yeah, so look at what planets you've got going on there. If you have 3 or more planets sitting there, then you know then in terms of groups, I would say nowadays with social media, there may be an interesting thing going on with you in that space because of that. So look at that very carefully. All right, 11th house. 12th house. 12th house. So the 12th house, kind of like the 8th house. I think it's an easier house to explain than the 8th house, honestly. But I do think it can be a more challenging and misunderstood house because of what it does represent. So one of the things I mentioned this in the last video, how every house, the order of the houses is very important, not only because it follows the rulership follows the order of the natural astrological sequence. So Aries is house 1, and that's the first sign. Second house is ruled by Taurus, which is the second sign, and so forth, right? So by the time we get to it's also happening where it's kind of like if you think about the spiritual arc, okay, and this kind of human experience that you're having, and the not only just the human experience, but how the soul is dancing with the human in this whole experience, right? So if we think of the first house as the I am, it's kind of the like that, right? Here I am. And then as we keep going, the second house is I have. First house is I am. Second house is I have. Third house is I think, meaning Gemini. These are kind of the mantras for those houses. By the time we really get into the 12th house, now we are with Pisces. Now we are with our Jupiter and Neptune, okay, particularly that Neptune. And so now the 12th house is bringing us back to the divine, back to that inner emotional, ethereal, not always tangible understanding. And so this is why I call it the hidden self. You also will see it termed as the spiritual house. You may see it as the secrets house, but it's basically those things we do behind closed doors, the things that people don't always see about us. This is the trickster about the 12th house, though. If you are bringing your awareness and you are consciously, intentionally, mindfully, really working toward understanding self and understanding the whys of why you're here, and understanding kind of how you're thinking and all the things, understanding the soul, understanding healing, your creativity, all of that. If you're bringing awareness there and in some way doing that on a regular, okay, nurturing it, then that 12th house becomes, I think, this really delightful space because it definitely becomes more of that spiritual, that quiet place that you go to fill yourself up, that you go to do whatever energy is sitting for you in that 12th house, whatever sign, whatever planets, you're working kind of behind the scenes in your life with that energy and with whatever planet energy is there. But if you are not doing those things, okay, if you are more living a little bit more on the outer parts of your life, living a little bit more for the human experience and not as much with the unseen self and spirit and so forth, then this can become more of the place of our secrets. This can be a part of self that we're completely clueless about and not even aware what's happening there. And we may be projecting all kinds of things from that space. And so this is the thing. If you have a lot of planets, remember 3 or more planets sitting somewhere is saying we gonna give you some lessons here. We're gonna have some contrast. It's gonna be a little bit of something. I find that and this is just my theory. I don't know what other astrologers and other people, but I find and in my I know in my work of working with clients who have a lot of placements in the 12th house, I find that there's a lot because there's so much that's trying to be brought up for you to get quiet and not be so much in your outer self or even ego. And I don't mean egotistical, but the part of the human self, the ego. It's trying to really pull you energetically to make awareness of these things inside, these things, this more hidden parts of ourself, the spirit inside, the soul. And so then that can play out. The way that plays out in the public or the way that plays out in reality is it can feel like that person may be very how do I want to say, not as much insight as to what they may project, how others may experience things with them, how or about these parts of themselves that are actually asking for greater attention and nurturing and development. So, because again, all those planets are sitting there to pull you into the energy of that house, right? Now, again, if you don't have planets there, it doesn't mean that you don't need to be pulled in. It just means, again, that's not a bigger part of the journeys in this lifetime's lessons per se. It's a more even flow of things. But I also find that once you do really tap into that, that's a very magical house because it's a very powerful house. It's the divine space. And if you can really do that personal work where you're understanding yourself on a more subconscious level or on a spiritual level and the intuitive level, if you've got a lot of planets there, now it becomes extremely powerful because that is our power, right? That divine, the God in us, and I don't like to mix astrology with religion or anything like that, but astrology is it is it is looking at a soul journey. So I think it's important, whatever you understand as source, what's going on in that 12th house is attempting to help bring you closer to the divine, to the divinity, to the divine energy, which is that healing, creativity, intuition, those things. So it can be a little bit of a hard house. And I find that people are like, well, what if my sun is there? If your sun sign is there, well, where you shine, it's not that you don't shine, but like I've come across a couple of fire signs who have their sun in the 12th house, which fire is that active. Remember, I am the Aries, the Leo, look at me, see me, the Sagittarius, let me mutable, let me get out all the information I want to teach. And then to have that in the hidden self, it can be like, what? So if you have a fire sign kind of sitting in there, it's not to say that you can't show up in the world. It's just saying that the way that you tend to yourself needs to be in that very expressive, activated way. Okay. So that you can show up in your 10th house and 11th house and 9th house in these more public spaces with more power, with more alignment, with more understanding. Okay. And so it's attempting to get us kind of really it's like, come on, come back over here for a minute. And there's a lot of other things at the 12th house when there's activity going on there. From everything from what your mother was experiencing when she was pregnant with you to, yes, that deep, to how, some people, certain placements there, like, okay, so I have Gemini there. And right now, Gemini has a lot of activity going on, right? The sun is in Gemini. Actually, we'll be leaving that in the next week or so, but the sun is there. We had obviously the moons and all the new moons, and we had Jupiter. There's a lot of stuff going on in Gemini right now. And it's interesting because Gemini is that more social sign. And it is, wants to kind of like, oh, let's go, let's talk, let's get curious. It's this. But mine sits in the 12th house. So all my little this is going for me, like behind, like being in my home, not necessarily socializing outwardly in the world, but having these more intimate spaces within myself. And then I have Saturn there, which is tricky. Saturn doesn't like sitting there like that. But it does help me to become, when I'm in my higher frequency, to be thinking more deeply about how I need to be in more alignment with myself. Now, when I was a lot younger and had no idea, obviously didn't know astrology to this level and didn't know what was going on there. I found that yes, there were lots of parts of myself that I hid. There were a lot of things I didn't talk about, a lot of secrets actually in my life, lots. And it really helped me understand, like, and those secrets weren't because I was trying to be secretive. And I remember thinking to myself about that. Like, it's not that I am trying to keep secrets per se, but I didn't feel comfortable and I didn't really understand. And I kind of thought everybody just kind of does this. But now I see it was because I really wasn't doing what Saturn was asking me to get really in alignment with myself so that I'd be more aware of my words and more aware of my thinking. And then therefore not have the need to be secretive. I know, pretty deep. Okay. And it's still a work in progress in terms of just, you know, I do think having Gemini in that house, Saturn in that house is tricky. And I'm still learning many things. And there's some other parts of that go along with that. But yeah, pay attention, see what's happening there in that 12th house of hidden self. All right, that's the 12 houses. We did it. Yes. So I'm going to be out of town next week, and I'm still hoping I can get a video up for June 23rd because we will be starting to get, I don't know, it's June 23rd. I think that's officially getting us, yeah, into Cancer season. And yeah, lots. I like Cancer season. I'm a Cancer rising and summer solstice, all the goods, is happening. We're officially in summer, even though here in Chicago, it feels like we've been in summer. Global warming, it's a little tricky. It's been too hot, too early. But at any rate, I hope that you've learned something. Thank you again for watching this series. We're going to be back. If not next Sunday, then the next with a new topic. I don't know if it'll be a series or a topic. I don't know. I would love for you to message, put in the comment what you want to learn about, because then I can see if that. Now I can't guarantee if you put something like I can't talk about that, or I don't know, then I won't. But if it's centered around, astrology, basic astrology, the planets, energies, different personality traits, love, career, any of those things, we should talk about it. Okay. We should talk about it. So again, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you click a like if something resonated for you, learn something new today, or you just want to be in support. We're super close to that 1,000 mark. Share the video and rewatch it. Pull out your birth chart. Book a reading if you want some help with all of this, so we can dig down into it. All right. This has been awesome. Thank you guys. Enjoy your Sunday, your Astral Self-Care Sunday. All right. Take care.